Hey, it's Jordan with Status Coup. We have now entered the phase of the Biden presidential reelection campaign of polling trutherism among top Democrats. That is, those polls showing Biden very vulnerable. I don't buy them at all. Let's take a look at lobbyist Maria Cardona, big Democratic establishment figure, was an advisor to the Clinton campaign, longtime lobbyist, CNN contributor, of course. Let's see what she thinks about the recent polls showing Biden's vulnerability in terms of reelection.
My call is for the president to pass the torch. I think that would be in the country's best interest, and certainly Democrats. We have an extraordinary bench of Democrats ready to go, prepared, proximate, well-positioned, but we'll never know that.
What's your reaction response to that?
I think he's very alone in this, and I don't think that that is the sentiment of a lot of the Democrats. Even so, Victor, those polls that you talk about, where it says the majority of Democrats don't want Joe Biden to run, those are trash polls to me because they are completely in a vacuum. They're not focused on anything in reality, and so until that reality changes, what we have is Joe Biden that is going to be the Democratic nominee, and I believe he's going to be a very strong Democratic nominee with an economy that is strong. People are starting to feel it. You had a reporter earlier on this morning talking about how consumer confidence is growing, and all of these measures where economists are now saying they don't expect a recession. There's over a year to the election, so those numbers are going to start sinking in. And when you have a contrast with what Joe Biden is putting on the floor, and this congressman supports his agenda, versus the crazy bread MAGA extremist agenda that is trying to take away women's rights, that is trying to ban books, that is trying to rewrite African-American history, that is not something that Americans want in the White House. They don't want the crazy bread in the White House. They had it for 4 years, and I don't think you're going to see another independent voter or a suburban woman that is going to say, oh, the fourth indictment, oh yeah, now I'm going to be able to support crazy bread Trump. No, I don't think so. The president is not adding, frankly, no other Republican is adding support right now among the voters that they need it. And I don't see how that's going to happen between now and the election.
All right, Maria Cardona.
Oh boy, crazy bread, crazy bread. You know, this reminds me of when I was like 16, you know, kind of my first love relationship, and I got dumped. And I just didn't believe it. I just couldn't believe it. I kept calling and messaging. I think I emailed her. I just couldn't believe the truth that she was rejecting me. I finally got over it, but it took a while. It sounds like that to me. Maria Cardona, who, by the way, if you don't know about Maria Cardona, fittingly on CNN, of course, this is not shared by CNN, but boy, does she have quite a history in terms of helping the middle class, shall we say. This from The Intercept. Superdelegates Jill Alper, Minion Moore, and Maria Cardona are officials at Dewey Square Group, a lobbying firm that is closely affiliated with the Clinton campaign and retained by the Clinton-supporting super PAC Priorities USA Action and Correct the Record. Alper and Moore are Clinton advisors who have raised over $100,000 for her campaign. Dewey Square Group, as we've reported, was retained by the health insurance industry to undermine health reform efforts in 2009, including proposals to change Medicare Advantage. Ugh. The firm has previously worked to influence policy on behalf of Enron, Countrywide, Citigroup, Coca-Cola, the U.S. Telecom Association, and News Corporation, owner of Fox News, by the way. Boy, talk about Build Back Better, a lobbyist for a who's who of the United Corporations of America. But let's focus on Maria Cardona, who just doesn't believe the polls showing Biden's weakness. She says Dean Phillips, he is the Minnesota congressman who has kind of been out on an island publicly, calling for more primary challengers to President Biden, pointing out Biden's weakness and vulnerability to Trump, even though he's been 4 times indicted. She says he's very alone in this feeling. Then why were donors meeting with Dean Phillips in New York City? Then why is Dean Phillips, who I believe, at least on this, saying that he's being told by governors and others in the Democratic Party. He's being cheered on by them for going public with what they would like to say, but are too chicken shit to say, that we need alternatives to Biden. If he's alone in this, why would he be going on national TV talking to the press about how weak Biden is? You think he's just really brave? Or is he a sacrificial lamb, a sacrificial puppet being pushed by the donors, other Democratic politicians, to be the figure, the spokesperson, trying to push Biden out of the way? But he's alone in this. She says the polls are trash. These are trash polls to me. Why? Because they are. Did I give a reason why they are trash polls? I don't need to. There's just trash polls that show Biden tied with a 4-time indicted former president who engineered and pushed a coup of the election results. They're just trash. They're completely in a vacuum and not focused on anything in reality. My favorite part was when she said, until reality changes. That is a bumper sticker that I would slap on my car for the corporate Democratic Party. Until reality changes. Could have had that for Hillary Clinton in 2016. Well, what exactly are you waiting for in terms of until reality changes? Because we're hearing from Maria Cardona and other corporate Democrats like David Axelrod, James Carville, others who, live on CNN and MSNBC. The economy is doing wonderful. Bidenomics has rescued the middle class. It's just going to take a little while for people to feel it. It's kind of like for my 9-month-old, we are giving her the acid reflux drops. It just takes a little while for it to work. The people will feel it eventually on how Bidenomics is actually helping them. Yeah, that's kind of not how it works. But, lobbyists who represent Enron and private healthcare and try to destroy healthcare reform or Medicare for all for those Americans who are desperate for healthcare, why would they know what real working people and the proletariat are going through? But when she says, until reality changes, well, let me kind of step in here and give a little reality to Maria Cardona and the corporate Democratic establishment that are now polling truthers and say, nah, we don't believe the polls. Biden's approval rating for the economy remains at about 1/3, poll finds. President Biden's Bidenomics remains a tough sell to the public so far, with a new poll showing that just over 1/3 of Americans approve of his handling of the economy. Poll from the Associated Press NORC Center for Public Affairs Research published Thursday found only 36% of surveyed Americans approve of Biden's handling of the economy, and only 42% approve of his overall performance. The results are consistent with other recent polling on Biden's handling of the economy. 34% of surveyed Americans approved of his handling of the economy in June, and that figure inched up to 37% approving in July. Ooh, about 1/3 approving of his handling of the economy. But don't worry, the Democratic healthcare, big oil, and real estate lobbyists tells you it's just going to take a while for these ignorant Americans just to feel it, to understand. No, he's helping you. Oh, you're working 2 jobs? Help's on the way. It's just kind of like that, slow dose administration of the medicine. To be honest, it's not all Biden's fault because we live in the United Corporations of America, and Democratic presidents, Republican presidents have been feeding this bullshit for 40 years. Oh, it's really about the unemployment rate. Low unemployment, things are okay. GDP up, things are okay. Oh, the stock market doing well? Wonderful. Meanwhile, half the people are working 2 to 3 jobs. Meanwhile, the majority of people, I think 61%, in recent research and reporting said 61% are living paycheck to paycheck. Nearly half don't have more than $400 in the bank for an emergency. Yet we want to talk about, oh, these polls are trash. Oh, things are on the upswing. It's just going to take a while to feel it. Well, you could do something that wouldn't take a while, as I've been saying. Well, Biden has a pen. Why don't you just do some executive actions on healthcare, the climate crisis? As I record this, we're talking 1,000 people still missing in Maui. So that death toll tragically is going to be a lot higher. Could take executive action on, he could take executive action, healthcare, jobs. He could take executive action on the climate crisis. He could even take executive action on things like the minimum wage, but not going to, because it's about the money, baby. And right now, the focus, United Corporations of America, Maria Cardona, a Democratic Party lifer, Joe Biden, and all of the apparatus around him in the DNC, their main focus is hoarding money from the donors. Big banks, fossil fuels, big real estate, Silicon Valley, big pharma, military industrial complex. 4, presidential election, governor's races, Senate, Congress, and those donors who are going to give them money don't exactly want executive actions that are going to help the worker bees. It's really embarrassing. And I'm going to save this clip in the event that Biden loses, because if he loses, it's going to be on the economy. And it's going to be on because the Democrats, I think intentionally, as Bernie once said, I think they'd rather go down on the Titanic as long as they keep their first class seating. I think the Democrats are willfully ignorant. I think most of them know that we live in a caste system, that we live in a new gilded age, a tale of two countries, but they just expect the masses to remain stupid. And by the way, you know, as they've been fear-mongering about Cornel West, there's another thing that Maria Cardona wants to ignore and, you know, trash these polls or study groups. Black voters are not particularly enthused with Biden right now. Pathetic voters of color slam Biden's performance on the economy. This was a recent focus group. 8 men of color who voted for Biden in 2020 were asked to describe their feelings about the economy. Answers were bleak. Quote, discouraged, one said. Quote, pathetic, complained another. Quote, pessimistic, said a third. Signs of dissatisfaction with Democrats didn't end there. Respondents were also asked about the rise in crime and border issues. Democrats got zeros across the board. Perhaps most troubling of all, some respondents indicated that they preferred the economy under Trump. Quote, our economy is the lowest it's been in God knows how long, said a Hispanic respondent who lives in New Jersey. We keep sending more money to Ukraine and other countries rather than helping ourselves. Well, to be fair, only 8 people, but as I've been saying for weeks, I kind of feel right now déjà vu feelings to 2015 and 2016. Contrary to Hillary Clinton and her harebrained campaign, it wasn't Russia. It wasn't Jill Stein why she lost. She lost because she got depressed turnout among Black voters, among Hispanic voters, among young voters. She did 5% worse among Black voters than Obama in 2012, 6% worse among Hispanics compared to Obama in 2012, and 6% worse among age 18 to 29 young people compared to Obama. And within that Black vote, particularly, she did worse among Black men, Hispanic men. Now, only 8, but we're seeing other polls where Hispanic and Black voter support of Biden are dipping. Why? Because they're not buying this fairy dust you're selling on, low unemployment, GDP. It ain't hitting them. Sure, is Biden fully to blame on inflation? No, he's not. That's a global thing. But there are things he could have done to improve it quickly that I've been saying for years, like saying to the oil companies that have bought off the Democratic Party, you want to continue price gouging? Yeah, we're pulling your federal subsidies of $15 billion a year by the end of the month. He could have done this 2 years ago. Watch how quickly they would have lowered prices. It's what Jack Kennedy, JFK, did in 1961 to the U.S., to the steel companies when they were price gouging, and they lowered prices. So, as the Democratic Party and the lobbyist elite say, these are trash polls. We don't believe them. Well, I got news for you. After you hit the Titanic, you can't say, oh, don't worry, that was just a little piece of ice.